I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show tonight. You are watching the Cryptid Podcast. I'm your host, Dano. And you guys, tonight, I got a pretty great guest on. I was going to have him on a little earlier. However, he was having some connectivity issues. And I just want to make sure that we were able to bring you guys his story in the best possible light. Before I bring our guest on, I'm going to go ahead and just say thank you for all your support. I do have a giveaway going right now for $2.99 membership of the Cryptid Podcast. You'll become a member of the Cryptid crew. It's $2.99 a month. And by becoming a member, you will get your name entered into a drawing for this hat. Now, yes, you can get this hat probably from another retailer, but you know, it's just my way of saying thank you so much for supporting the channel, and just being part of this community. If you guys have had an encounter and you'd like to come on the show, please send me your encounters at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Guys, without further ado, let's bring our guest on tonight. I've got Chris. Chris, what's up? What's up, bud?
How's it going, man? Pretty good.
It's going good. Again, thanks for coming back, rescheduling. Sorry we couldn't really get things going the way we needed to do, but you got such a great story that I really didn't want it to have any hiccups during you telling your story. So again, thank you so much for coming back on and agreeing to reschedule for today. So let me ask you this. This whole cryptid genre, how long have you been interested in it, and what really brought you to it?
I think for me specifically, it was when I was a little kid. I watched The Legend of Boggy Creek. I was probably way too young to be watching it, but I've always handled horror pretty well. So I watched it. I thought it was interesting, and then, who would have known a few years later,
Yeah. So you know what? That perfect segue to bring you up. Let's just go ahead and jump right on in to your story.
All right, so I was about 10 or 11. So I'm 31 now, so do the math. I was about 10 or 11. I was living with my grandmother, and my grandmother owned a bar at the time. And there'd be days I'd go in, get me a soda, talk to my grandmother for like a minute or two, and then she'd kick me out because no kids in the bar. Well, me and my grandmother always had a really close relationship, so she was playing with me, and she ran me out, and this time out the front door. So I run, and by the time I slow down, I was full sprint away. By the time I slow down, I get to the end of the gravel. I want to say parking lot. It's not that big. It's not. I mean, it's technically a parking lot, but it's just a gravel section where the car is parked. And by the time I get to it, you get to the edge of where the street light is. I'm laughing, and I'm about to turn around and walk back to the trailer that we lived in right next to the bar. And right before I do, I catch somebody moving amongst the cars and amongst the trees, because we had enough people that night that they had parked kind of in the field that was right next to a set of trees. And I'm used to people walking between the cars and stuff. That's normal. People go to the cars to get whatever they extra drinks, pregame, whatever. And I'm used to seeing people, and people are used to seeing me. So I see somebody walking, and there's a lot that goes into it, but it happened in just a few seconds. But I noticed that the person's shoulder, like their forearm, so bicep, was like right there above the beginning of the branches of these saplings that separated the parking lot from this little roundabout that went to some other people's houses down the way. And that was when it kind of hit me, the size of the person. They didn't acknowledge me, didn't say anything, and they weren't headed to any specific car, but also, like, there was no noise. So all at once, everything kind of freaks me out. The silence, the size, how close they were, because I was extremely close. They were just inside the darkness where the trees were, walking through the cars. I mean, I couldn't have been any more than like and I don't know, it was like less than 10 feet, 10 feet, easy, and I was just terrified. So I turn around and I run faster than I've ever ran in my life. I mean, to this day, I've never ran that fast. I run back into my grandma's place. I close the door. I lock the door, which is a big no-no. My grandma didn't, she's coming in like 3 in the morning. She doesn't want the door to be locked. She can't. So I lock the door, knowing I'm going to get chewed out, and I hide in the centermost of the trailer that I can get, and away from any windows. I turn off everything, no TV, nothing, and I just sit there until my grandma comes in at like 3 in the morning. Well, that's about it.
Okay, so yeah, you're 11 years old, man, and I mean, I had my dad with me when I had my encounter when I was 12. Like we were in a moving car. I was with my dad. I was through my dad with the entire from start to finish. But you're 11 years old. You're by yourself. Now, again, about what time frame was this? Like at night or during the day? Like
Oh
about
no, this was the dark of night. The bar was in full swing, so this had to be 9 to 11
okay,
at
okay,
night.
yeah. And about how far was this bar from the?
So that I'm having a hard time, like, because I mean the bar's been tore down for so many years now. I don't know exactly how far it is from the front door to the light. It's not that far. It's really not. I mean, if you told me it was like 20 feet, I'd have a hard time believing that.
Okay, so
But I mean,
so it was relatively close.
oh yeah,
Okay, so let me.
this place is not very big in totality.
Do you think that this thing potentially watched you when you left the bar?
That's the thing that gets me is when I say it didn't acknowledge me, like I'm used to people getting in and out of their cars acknowledge me. It didn't. If it looked at me, it would have had to have done it out of its peripheral because the only movement I saw from this thing, like despite being in shadow, it was so big that its presence was very clearly different from the darkness around it. And that's how I know it wasn't like a trick of the eye or anything. It was very clearly different from the rest of the shadows.
Okay.
And the only movement I saw was arms and it moving away. It didn't move its head that I saw. Again, that I saw. I didn't see its head move. So if it acknowledged me, it did so out of its peripheral and just kept going.
What do you think it was doing around that area?
So the bar is on a lake. If it was doing anything moving through there, it was probably headed to one of the fishing, like where the areas where people go fishing, probably. If I had to guess.
Where are the dumpsters at? If there were any.
So my grandmother's dumpster would have been to the opposite direction he was walking, and the other one would have been near their respective houses, and all of them when a trash day came around they collected at the. So let me lay it out for you. This is the road. They would have been at the very entrance of the roundabout.
Okay.
So to his left.
So why I'm asking these questions is, do you think it's a possibility that this creature was checking out the dumpster behind the bar and then moving its way towards either the lake or another dumpster?
Like I said, if I had to guess, I think it was headed towards the lake. I think if it was the only thing that would have been in the direction that it was headed would have been one of the more popular fishing spots that because there's a few out in that area. So if it wasn't headed towards the boat ramp and towards the popular fishing spot that it would have been walking away from, then it was headed to the other fishing spot.
Okay. And you said it paid you no mind. You just saw movement as, its arm moving, kind of swaying, and then you saw the shadow moving. So there was that movement. It definitely was darker than what everything else was around it. About how long did it take from where you had spotted it before it just vanished?
So that's the thing. The moment, because I recognized what it was pretty quickly. Like I said, I was really young whenever I watched The Legend of Boggy Creek.
Mhm.
So and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I'm a pretty smart guy. But I knew this is not my eyes playing tricks on me. This is very clearly because I'm also used to seeing people moving through the darkness in between the cars. I picked out there was something there. It was massive. I mean, it's not a person when you see the bicep above these first few branches. I asked my grandpa the next morning, or maybe the next day. I asked him about how tall the first branches of these saplings were that separated the parking lot from the roundabout, and he went and got a tape measure and everything, and they're about 8 feet, 9 feet, somewhere in that ballpark. Like I said, it's been decades now, so I don't remember exactly what he said. But the fact that this thing's entire bicep was above the first few branches of these saplings, I immediately knew that was not a person.
Now you mentioned the silence. So say you saw this on a Tuesday, right? What are the normal sounds that you're going to hear, not from the bar itself, but when you step outside the bar? What are the normal sounds that you would say, oh, okay, this is this or this is that? What are the normal sounds you would normally hear?
So pretty much every given day, you'll hear car traffic. That's just we're on a there's like an area you can go down to go walking. There's a free walking trails. There's also a boat ramp for people to go fishing. So car traffic, you can hear it at almost any time of the day, sparsely, but also you're going to get lake sounds. There's birds. Not a lot of animal traffic around my grandmother's house because cars are so. They're frequent enough that you get deer, but that's it. I saw a hog, a family of hogs, once in the entire time that she lived there.
Okay.
So there's just not a lot of wildlife in that area, brother.
So when you say the silence, what was not there that, and I'm not saying made up. So an automobile is going to make it it's not a natural sound in nature.
I'll see what you're saying now. The only thing that was missing was the gravel because I don't know. I always have a hard time explaining this to people, but the parking lot was not hard set. There is just a vague square of gravel that acted as a parking lot. There is a thin line of saplings that the uppermost part of their branches and stuff can block out enough light that it creates this wall of darkness. And then after that wall, there is again, barely separated road that creates a roundabout to go into the other houses. Now, these saplings are the ones I'm talking about because there's also a small group of saplings that starts with the field that the roundabout road separates between the parking lot. He was walking on the gravel road of the roundabout going towards the lake. He was he was at an angle, so he was going to step off the gravel and into the field and weave about the cars. He was on the gravel when I saw him, and there was not a single rock that I heard move. That was what was missing. That gravel made no noise.
That's what I was at. That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, and the reason I asked that is because I have heard just recently that someone who had spotted some tracks, it kind of looked like their feet are kind of padded and they kind of when you step down like on a balloon, how it kind of goes out to the sides, like like their feet are enough to pad, so that kind of gives them the ability to walk across snow if need be. Now I'm not saying like on top such as snowshoes, but they're definitely not going to sink to their waist in deep snow or their thigh in deep snow. It's just the way, again, how their feet are made, with that dermal ridge and things like that. That's what I wanting to hear, that the sound that should have been there, meaning walking across gravel, because we've all done it. At
Yeah.
one point in time of our life, we've all walked across gravel, pea, whatever. And that one sound that should have been there was that gravel sound when somebody, regardless if you're barefoot, you're wearing some type of footwear, it's an animal or whatever, you're going to hear that gravel. And that's what I was hoping you would say. Is it
So
this?
I'm sorry, brother. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm so
No,
sorry.
you're good. You're good.
There is one thing I want to add. Not for anybody's own, just from from me to you. I knew that he was there, that he was physically there, from not only because he was, his shadow was the same way other people are when they're walking through. He was moving the trees as he passed by. They weren't making any sounds, but that's not like abnormal or anything. So like I know he was physically there because I saw the trees not swaying with the wind.
Mhm.
It was a relatively quiet night. As his bicep brushed those branches, it moved the trees. So
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to add that before that came up. Like, yes, it was silent, but he was physically there.
Right. So let me ask you this. So from the time that you knew it was time for you to leave the bar, okay, so in Tennessee, you could stay at the bar with your parents or your guardian or whatever this is the way it was when I was a kid, until it
Right.
was like 6 o'clock at night. So, and this is located, where are you located? Where was this located at?
So we were in Arkansas,
Okay.
specifically Chittister, Arkansas. So
Okay.
it's like in the middle of nowhere, in between like Camden and Texarkana, or
Okay.
well, not Camden and Texarkana, but that's just a. I don't want to describe the whole area, but if you
Yeah.
know where Chittister is, you know where Chittister is.
Right.
But I mean, it's in the middle of the woods, and I was not supposed to be in there at 9. That
Of
I was
course.
not supposed to be in there, but I wanted a soda. I wanted to tell my grandma
Yeah.
good night. So I went in there, grabbed one, and I was headed out the front door.
So from the time you went in to the time you left, did you notice anybody walking in and out of the bar?
Like I said, it was in full swing about this time. Everybody that was going to show up had pretty much already shown up and was already out of their cars and was in the bar drinking.
Okay. So my where I was going to go with that is I wonder, do you think that it was observing people coming and going from the time
If
you went in there?
If it did, it shows the perfect time because, if it was examining people, then it saw all of the cars were emptied, all of their lights were off, all their ignitions were off, like all those cars were cold, and he was like, okay, everyone is inside. Now is the time to go.
Safe for him to move.
Hmm.
Yeah. Let me ask you, how often do you think that this thing frequented that area?
That was one of the weird parts about the experiences. Again, that I know of, I never saw it again. My grandma and grandpa were the only people that I could have asked that lived in that area if they saw it.
Mhm.
And if they saw anything, my grandpa took it with him to his grave, or didn't know what it was.
How do you spell that town?
Chittister. So CHID. I think it's DESTER.
Okay. Because I know quite a few people live in Arkansas, so I'm
Mm.
gonna ask him. I'm like, hey, what do you know about this area? So like my buddy Josh, he's from Arkansas. I got another buddy of mine, Bo Ballard. He's from Arkansas. Um, uh, White Estes is from Arkansas. Um, if you so is where is that in conjunction in the state?
Um. So if you know where Hot Springs is, it's down towards Texarkana. So like the
Okay.
bottom left hand side of the state.
Okay. Bottom left hand side. Okay.
So it would be now. I'm really really bad about this, so I could be a little off base. But if you know where Texarkana is, so you have to go north. Oh, yeah, we are up and to the right of Texarkana.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Okay.
In fact, the everywhere that I've lived most of my life has been like right there on the interstate that leads into Texarkana or into Little Rock.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this: Have you, that you recall, heard anything out of the ordinary before or after this sighting?
I think the only instance I've ever had, other than that, thank God, would be, so I used to go hunting in a town that's also kind of in the middle of the nowhere, further away, called Fordyce.
Mhm.
Went hunting and dead silence. No birds, nothing. But I mean, that was my first time ever going hunting, ever. And I didn't know any better. So it didn't freak me out. I was just like, wow, it's boring out here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, a lot of times, you know, we get so secure in our area because, I mean, it's the routine day in and day out, same thing, coming and going, no worries. And then you have this,
Yeah.
up to that time, how many times had you hung out at your grandma's bar? How many times you'd run in there to say, hey, you know, or get a, what, dozens of times?
Man, every weekend, like every weekend, it was something. I was outside I mean, if this porch lights came on, I was probably still outside. My grandmother let me play in the yard and in the woods out there. I mean, as long as I was inside when she called, she was cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was out there. We airsoft out in the little Grand Canyon out there. I mean, I was out in those woods very often.
Yeah.
Not after that. That was that was one of those things. It kind of put a stop to all of that. I mean, if it started getting dark, the moment I couldn't make out the trees further in, I was inside.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you at all. And you don't know of any reports or any, rumors that, oh, hey, I went down to the shoreline and I saw this gigantic footprint or
So that's actually what caused me to reach out. With the first time I told my story on YouTube was I started watching and he did a huge thing about other people in Arkansas. I had only known about Falk because people in Arkansas, especially the people that are most likely to have these stories, which are the
Mhm.
people I grew up around, woods, they don't talk about it. Or I've never heard
Oh.
them talk about anything like this.
Mm-mm.
So when I heard these reports for other people's experiences out of Arkansas, that was the whole reason that I contacted in the first place, because
Yeah.
I that was the first time I heard somebody else tell a story near me.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that come out to that area, they hop on boats, they're out fishing, and then they hop out and they're gone.
Now, how big is the lake that is it a lake or
Yeah, it's a man-made lake. Oh man, I don't know actually. It's pretty big. Like you can't, if you're standing on my grandmother's back porch and you look out across the water, you can see most of the other shoreline, but you can't see all the way across it. So it's pretty decent sized, but
yeah.
that's purely from my perspective. I couldn't tell you honestly. I'm sorry.
No, no, you're good. And is it still pretty wooded around that area?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even ever since I'm 30, 31, 32 now, and 20 years later, it's still the exact same as I remember it. Just the bar is gone now.
Do you remember what the name of that lake is?
White Oak.
White Oak?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask around some people I know. So you never know. I got
Oh yeah.
I got a couple friends that go out to this one area all the time. And yeah, they get eye shine, they get vocalizations. Like they shared some audio one time and it was like an owl. You heard a real owl. You heard it because when an owl hoots, you hear it trail off.
Yeah.
But you heard these things like ooh, ooh, whatever, trying to be an owl. But then all of a sudden you heard monkey chatter. Like it went from an owl to monkey chatter. And I was like, I listened to the audio. I listened to the audio like hours after they took it. And I was like, oh my gosh. It was crazy. It's crazy, and that's in Arkansas. So
That's wild. I am morbidly fascinated with it. If they do wind up in White Oak, do not go to the normal areas. Don't go to the walking trails. Don't go to the little Grand Canyon area. They're on the lake. There is a small island that is visible from the boat dock. That is like if they were going to be anywhere near the populated areas, that's probably where I would go personally, because it's across the water, pretty isolated. I mean, when people go camping, they don't exactly go out there, not because there's any reason, they just don't.
yeah.
But their area is really quiet. That's why my grandmother liked it so much, just because whenever the bar wasn't active, it was just nobody messed with you. There was not that many people around. You get out there, you can hear animals, but I mean, that close to the roads, you don't hear a whole lot.
Now, are they truly animals that you're hearing though? Because they're mimics,
Oh yeah.
big time.
I heard the Sierra sounds, and I was like, I want to hear this, but I do not want to have another sighting. That was the most scared I've ever been in my life.
So you just mentioned the Sierra sounds. So have you heard this Sierra sound? This is now a lot of people have heard this samurai chatter. Okay.
Yeah.
You've heard that, right?
No, I have not.
You haven't. So you know who Ron Moorhead is, right?
Yeah.
I consider Ron a friend of mine now. I was introduced to him through a friend named Daryl Denton, and those two are road dogs. Those two go out and do investigation stuff. That audio I just played you is directly from Mr. Moorhead himself. I didn't go any other place. Mr. Moorhead sent me that. Now here's another one. Now I've heard that samurai chatter hundreds of times on other shows and introductions and things like that, but I've never heard this one, and he sent this one to me as well.
That's cool. I see. I've never. That was close.
Now, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, I talk too much better. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I had never heard. Those are also from Ron Moorhead. He sent me those as well when I had him on my show. And when I heard those, that is very, very close or similar to what I heard the night that my dad and I saw that Sasquatch.
That's crazy. That sound was so clear.
They had a microphone hanging up in a tree, and they're guessing that this thing was right underneath that microphone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I'm telling you. And then, if you heard of Daryl Adams,
Yeah.
Al Moon Lab,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. So he sent me these, which is, yeah, check this one out.
That's different.
That's like a roar or something, or a growl. That's up in the Al Moon Lab near his house. And then here's another one.
Yeah.
That's out behind his house when he lived there. And here's another one.
That's terrifying.
Now, this was captured. These are pictures he took himself in that location. Check this picture out. Okay, so if you look in the circle, you'll see a tree that's predominantly right in the center of the circle, correct? Now,
Yeah.
if you look just to the left of that circle or that tree, you'll see it looks like something kind of sticking out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now this is the second picture. Here's the first picture.
Oh.
Now, Daryl isn't saying, and I'm not saying, that this is the thing that made those noises. But this is the type of activity that's up in his old property, Almoon Labs, up in Oregon. Yeah. And it's like an everyday occurrence.
So
Everyday occurrence.
I wonder, like, if you don't mind me asking you a question, because
Go ahead.
I'm as much as I'm into this, like I said, I very much have no interest in seeing one. But why does Arkansas seem to be a lot more tame compared to like the Pacific North?
You know,
North.
it's funny. You are the second person that I've heard that claim that Arkansas is more tame, when actually the boogers down south are way more aggressive than the Sasquatches up in the Pacific Northwest.
I think that goes
Way.
back to the issue I was having earlier, where I never heard these stories. If it hadn't have been for the movie, I wouldn't have had a frame of reference. It would have just been something that terrified me I couldn't explain.
Well, let's see. So I have Josh Smith, who is my buddy. He's the host on Mysteries Unknown, and I'm the co-host when he does a live show. His episode on my channel is episode number 1. So go back to my channel and listen to his encounters. He had an encounter when he was 14 years old. He's had 3 encounters. All 3 encounters were in about a 5-mile radius of each other at different times of his life. He had one that Dukes of Hazzard across the hood of his car.
He told me that one.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, Bo Ballard, I think he's either episode 2, 3, or 4, might be 5. And his episode, let me see here. Give me a second here. Let me go to the old YouTuber here. Go to my channel, my videos. Let's see here. That's Josh's Midnight Runner. It's episode number 3. Midnight Runner. He didn't see something. Now, are you familiar with hunting, like with dogs, like coon hunting and stuff like that?
We didn't use, our dogs were house pets. We didn't hunt with them. But yeah, I've been hunting.
But you're familiar with on how they are trained, and when they get on one, they don't leave. They don't leave. They let you know that they're on something. They have different distinctive barks, and that's when you go following them. When they have one treed, there's a specific bark that they let out that they have one treed.
And sometimes you can chase them for a long time before you catch up to them. Yep.
So I'm just going to say that I'm not even going to give it away because you need to check it out. Check out that one. If you go back to episode 1 and then just keep going up, you are going to hear some incredible stories from people that, I mean, I'm looking at right now and I can remember the stories that they told me, and they're insane. And yours is again, you said earlier when we talked last time, well, it's really not that good. It's only short. Bro, yours is another piece to this puzzle. You need to understand that. It's another piece to this puzzle. So a lot of people out there say, oh, I think I saw one. Well, my son thought he saw one, but he never wanted to come forward. He held on to this for like 4 years. And he finally told me just this past spring break when we were at Michigan with him, visiting him in Michigan. He pulled me aside. We had like 2 days left on our vacation. He sat me down and says, I think I saw something. I go, what do you mean? You think you saw something? And he goes, I was coming home from my dad's house. I go, when? He goes, like, right around my birthday. Me and Jessica were driving down the street, and I know the name of the street. And he goes, you know where it starts to have that little incline up in the road? I'm like, yeah. I said, right there by that big field that has that one house next to the road and then that huge old oak tree out in the middle of the field. He's like, yep. He goes, I was driving. He goes, I looked ahead and I saw something move from the tree line on the left-hand side right by the bike path. And I go, really? And he goes, as I started going up the incline, I put my brakes on for whatever reason. I don't know why I did it, but when I did, it lit up the back of his car and he looked in his rearview mirror and he saw something running up to his car, like running straight up to his
To the car. Oh crap.
car. And that's when he slammed on the gas and took off. And he goes, did you just see that? And his girlfriend, well, fiance, looked and she said she saw something tear off into the field. And he says, I don't understand how something that big can be that fast, something like that.
Oh, that's the part that really gets me. It's part of the reason why I want nothing to do with them like in person is if they're that quiet and they move as fast as some people say they do, and they're that strong as some people say they are, man, I'm good. I had my sighting. I'm A-okay.
Well, there's a movie theater that's close to my house. And right across the road where this movie theater sits on, there's a lake. And there's an individual who had just moved back in the area and he was out doing like a late night bike ride. And he decided to go out by this lake. I think it was a full moon, he said. And so the moon was just super huge in the sky and it was shining off the lake. So he wanted to go out and there's like a small little lagoon. And as soon as he started describing this, I knew exactly where it was because I've driven by this lake hundreds of times. And he said that he went down to this little area on this little peninsula. And what I mean by peninsula, there's an inlet that comes in, and then it creates like a little lagoon. And there's like a northern peninsula and a southern peninsula that's separated by that little canal, right? And it's not that deep. This thing's not that deep. Sorry. And he goes, I heard some noises. And I kind of was getting ready to get out of there. And he goes, I want to say he described it as a coffee table sized rock comes sailing through the air, landing in the water. It hit so hard that it splashed him.
No, like a boulder, like an actual boulder.
So he starts going back to where he parked his bike, not a motorcycle, a bicycle. And when he gets there, guess what's not there?
Bike.
His bike is gone. So he's got this little flashlight, and he's flashing around, and now he sees his bike up in a tree. Not way up in a tree, just set up in a tree. He would have never seen it if the light didn't hit the reflector. So he grabbed his bike and he heard these noises and stuff snapping, and he's like, he got out of there.
That's another thing too. Out here, or at least the areas that I've lived in personally. I mean, like I said, I've been out in the woods ever since I was a little kid. That's where we play. I couldn't. If there were tree breaks, sometimes it's just impossible to tell if they're done on purpose or not. Just because of the areas we live in, they happen naturally. Or not like being twisted off like some people say. But it's so hard in certain areas of Arkansas to pick it out. Especially if they can mimic like it appears they can. Man, Arkansas would be perfect.
So you mentioned tree breaks. Look for stuff like this.
That's what I'm talking about. It twisted off like that.
Okay, that's not natural. That is not a natural occurrence at all. You can put tons and tons of snow, and I've seen it happen. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and I've seen snow fall and weight a tree down and weight a tree down and weight a tree down, and it snaps. It doesn't twist. There's nothing in nature that's going to take and twist a tree like that and break it off. It's not going to happen. Wind is not going to twist it and rotate the branch or rotate the trunk of the tree to a certain degree and then snap it off. Because if you look at this again, this is obviously twisted.
I mean, yeah, you can see where it's tore.
Yes, it's twisted. There's nothing in nature, meaning weather-wise, that's going to twist a tree like that with such force, unless you're probably maybe a tornado, maybe a Cat 5 hurricane, maybe a what are they, microburst windstorm or something like that. But normally when that comes in, those are straight line winds. They come, north to south, east to west. They're not going to twist something to snap it off like that. So, but if you continually go out in the woods, man, just keep your eye open for things.
So I'm actually thinking back on it. Like, you do see a few of those out by, like, I've seen a few of those before. Like, again, young kid, didn't pay any attention to it, but So, do you have anything about, like, closer towards Little Rock, like closer to the north of the state?
Give me some like cities that are up there.
So, like Pocahontas, obviously Little Rock, anywhere near Pettigene.
I could find out.
Okay, cool. Because that's about, and obviously, Pocahontas is nowhere near, that's to the top right of the state.
Yeah.
But like Pettigene Mountain, we were up there, and that's public camping. People go up there a lot. We went hiking a few times, and that picture you showed me of the twisted tree, I never. The only reason I remember it now is because it's a fond memory for me when I was a kid. It's a part of a very fond memory for me with my family.
Right.
I never thought about. I never put a lot of stock into that, actually.
When you think about it, because here's the thing, I'm almost certain I've seen things like that. I played in the woods, man. Not only did I live in Washington State, but I lived in Colorado. I lived in West Virginia. I lived in Tennessee. So these were all areas and that I could explore and get in the wilderness and things like that. And I know for a fact that I've seen hundreds of things like the X's and the trees that were bent in a weird way and then pointing somewhere. It was actually broken off. And I'm not talking down, probably around waist level. I'm talking up here. Off, stuff laid out in a particular way that that just doesn't fall that way. Or look, and this is just an example because I don't know what all the names choose. Look, here's a palm tree stuck up in a pine tree, and I'm not saying that I've ever seen that, but it's a tree that doesn't belong in that area that, you've walked these woods millions of times and that these kind of trees are way over here. Why is this tree from over here now over in this area where you've never seen these trees over in this area? You know what I'm saying?
Or like when you go hunting and you over time notice everything's moving not away from us. It's not that everything is moving away from. They're moving away in another direction, away from something else.
Or like you said, you're out there in a deer stand and you see deer and they're running not like they would normally run, but they're running away from something.
Yeah.
And but if you're out hunting, it could be another hunter or whatnot. But do you know where Perry County, Arkansas is?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Bo Ballard's encounter took. That's where it happened, up in Perry County.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Huh.
So he's seen some pretty crazy stuff up there. He's a great guy. I love talking to him. He became a fast friend of mine too. So, but Chris, what's up?
Yeah, well, I think I got family out there actually.
Hey, ask him. But hey, I just want to say thank because I'm gonna be interviewed on another show in about 15 minutes. So
yeah, hey, I thank you so much for having me on, brother. Really, I'm not good at the interview process.
Nah, dude, I told you, man. Oh, it's not that long, and I told you I'd turn it into longer than it needed to be because there's more to your story
Yeah.
than what you thought. You see what I'm saying? So, but dude, again, do not hesitate to text me, email me. You know, you got my cell phone number. So if you've got a question or something that popped up, man, dude, hit me up.
I'm gonna look into. I'm gonna call my cousin up. I'm gonna see if maybe we can go have some drinks. Maybe I can get something out of him.
Yeah.
He lives not quite out all the way out there, but he lives close.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see you. And if I hear anything, you'll be the first to know.
Awesome, dude. Well, hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead and close the show out. So you have a good night. You can hang out, or you can just drop off if you need to. But I'm gonna ISO me, and then we're gonna close out this show. All right.
Sounds good, brother.
Right,
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man. God bless you, brother.
Same to you, brother.
All right, guys, that's the show for tonight, man. I'll tell you right now, Chris is a great guest. When he said that it wasn't a big encounter, I knew there was more to the encounter that he realized, and I just wanted to pull that out of him. He was very, very gracious of his time and to answer these questions. You guys, if you guys, again, have had an encounter you'd like to come on the show, definitely shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. As my buddy Josh Smith always says, you guys stay prayed up. And as I always like to say, remember, a legend always starts with a sighting. Have a good night, guys. I'll talk to you later.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?